folks, it's Mad Dog Merv. I am here today at the Ogden Train Museum. Shoot a little bit of video and some pictures of what's up here. To be out here at the Ogden Railway Museum at the old Ogden Union Station. Let's take a look and see what they've got here. Gonna look north here. There's the depot in the distance, and you can see the old the platform where people used to come and go on the passenger trains. And out to the west here used to be like 12 different lines, and it's a beautiful vista out there right now. Outside is the Spencer S. Eccles Rail Center, which is where they have their outdoor displays of several different pieces of rolling stock and locomotives. Not sure what this is. I couldn't find out any information on it. It appears to be an old freight car of some sort that maybe they're going to restore. Here is U.S. Air Force 7277. It's an S1 class, and it was built in May of 1941, which is really pretty cool. And it was assigned to Hill Air Force Base for several years until being donated to the museum. A total of 540 S1s were built between April of 40 and June of 1950. It's kind of a really neat piece to see up here. Here we have a DAF X31. Originally, this was a Baltimore and Ohio heavyweight baggage car, believe it or not. The Air Force rebuilt it as a scoring crew support car for the Strategic Air Command to use in training B-52 bomber crews. It's the last car from a scoring set that was donated by the U.S. Air Force in 1991. One end is equipped as a storage area. The middle has showers and restroom facility and bunks for the scoring crew, and the other end once housed the computers used in evaluating training performances. Pretty neat little piece to have here in our collection. Now for the world's most powerful locomotive, Union Pacific Super Turbine Locomotive number 26. Locomotive 26 is among the largest locomotives ever built. It's strong enough to pull 735 fully loaded freight cars. Wow, that's a train 7 miles long. Locomotive 26 uses a turbine engine like a jet airplane. The turbine engine powers electric generators that turn the wheels. Locomotives like this are called big blows because they make a deafening noise like a jet airplane flying over. Locomotive number 26 traveled over 1 million miles, hauling heavy freight between Council Bluffs, Iowa and Ogden, Utah. It is one of only 2 surviving big blows on public display. The other one is in the Illinois Rail Museum in Union, Illinois. This locomotive was built in 1961 and it weighs 849,248 pounds. Its total length is 179 feet, including the fuel tender, and its engine is an 8,500 horsepower gas turbine. Its top speed was 65 miles an hour, and it was retired in February of 1970. Here we are outside the museum, standing in front of this monster, and to give you some idea how big this thing is, I'm going to pan around here. Holy cow. Yeah, this thing is enormous. What a wonderful piece to have here at the museum. The tender for the turbine is a retrofitted steam locomotive tender filled with bunker C oil. The fuel capacity was 24,384 gallons of diesel. So, wow. Yeah, that's a big tender there. Here's a rather interesting caboose. This one was built in January of 1921 by the Pacific Car and Foundry Company of Seattle, Washington for the Union Pacific subsidiary, the Oregon and Northwestern. Originally, this was number 2624. It was renumbered in August of 1962. It was retired in 1971 and restored by the UP before being donated to the museum. Cabooses have always fascinated me, and what I found that was kind of interesting to me is with the Union Pacific that prior to 1947, cabooses were painted in freight car brown. UP called it synthetic red. After 1947, they were painted in the yellow UP scheme, which I thought was kind of interesting, particularly on this really old caboose. This car was built by the American Hoist and Derrick Company in 1977 for the Missouri Pacific Railroad. However, it was acquired by the Union Pacific when the MP and the UP merged, and it was popularly known as a big hook. It had a lifting capacity of 250 tons, and it was retired in the 1990s. Here we have an Army hospital car. This car was built during World War II to transport the homecoming injured of the war to the military hospitals that were scattered across the country. Who knows, it may have even been used for transporting of wounded to the hospital in Brigham City. This was built by the American Car and Foundry Company and painstakingly restored. The interior, from what I understand, has got a display from the American Red Cross in it. It's beautiful. Here we have DNRG's 5371, which is an SD40 T2. These were built for the Southern Pacific and the DNRG only. The T designates a special tunnel motor designed to allow for cooler running through the long tunnels of the Sierras and the Rockies. Built by EMD in 1975, this particular locomotive was used until December of 2008. So here's a fun one, the UP-833. It's an FEF-2. This was built in October of 1939 by Alco for Union Pacific, and it was built as a passenger engine. It's balanced for regular running at 90 miles an hour, but officially hit 110 miles an hour, and in a test, unofficially hit 120 miles per hour, which was against company rules. It ran between Ogden and Cheyenne. It was originally built with a single stack, but was modified sometime during its career with a double stack. And this was removed from service in 1957. After being removed from the books in 1962, it was kept in Cheyenne for a while for historical purposes, but then eventually donated to Salt Lake City in 1972 to be on display in Pioneer Park, where it sat until 1999. So now we're going to go ahead and head inside the depot itself. This is the third in a series of depot buildings that was built to serve the railroad. The first one being built shortly after the rails were linked and served until 1889 when a larger, more Romanesque building was built. In February of 1923, that building was destroyed by fire. Then, erected on its predecessor's foundation, the present Union Station was built in the Italian Renaissance style, and it opened in 1924. Here's a display regarding the Lucin cutoff and a couple of accidents that took place there. One in the summer of 1902 with a train that was hauling black powder and a big explosion, 29 people killed. And then another was the one that happened on New Year's Eve in 1944, and it had a bunch of soldiers that were home on leave. 48 people were killed in that one. There was this little display about Pullman cars, how they progressed over the years. And also quite a nice display regarding cabooses and their purpose, and actually somebody who lived in one for quite some time. There is a open one here that you can go into. You hear the creaking of the boards as I walk around on this rickety old thing, but it was really neat to see what the inside of a caboose was like. And now to my favorite part of the museum, the model railroad displays. This particular one is supposed to be the little town of Corinne, Utah, around 1870 or so, right after the railroad came through. And this was in HO scale, and again, I really like the way this was done. Up here at the museum, they have a nice little display of the Big Boy locomotive. This particular one is in O scale, and it's very well done. They also have a theater that plays a film about the Big Boy. It's interesting that this day, while I am at this particular museum, my friend Dave Knopfsinger and his wife were in Cheyenne, Wyoming, looking at 4004 at the museum up there. Anyway, back to the model railroad display, and I really like this, the hobos that are camped around a fire. Oh, look, another Big Boy. This one in a diorama that was done of downtown Ogden. I really like this train car with the old 32 Ford sitting in the junk pile. And here is a model of an HO scale of Ogden Union Station. Again, I just absolutely love the model railroad stuff that they have up here. I might add that there's actually 4 museums here at the train station. This one is the Kimball Browning Classic Car Museum, where they have about 30 classic cars from the teens and 20s and 30s. Some pretty neat pieces to look at, which was kind of fun. I didn't take a picture of a lot of them. They just didn't interest me that much, but there is the Browning Arms Museum up here, and of course that you could spend hours in. Myself, I really like the BAR, the Browning Automatic Rifle, and so I spent some time learning a little bit more about them and inspecting the ones that they've got up there. They've got some beautiful pieces, including this training piece that's like a 3 times the real size of one. So wonderful group of museums. There's a cowboy museum here as well, and I just had a wonderful time going up and wandering around these museums. I highly recommend it to anybody. Thanks for joining us today, folks.